talk about not feeling like being here. I didn't feel like being here, but I've learned a long time ago this lesson from Bob Jones. He told us to he was a prophetic guy, and really, really strange prophetic guy. And enough said. In Kansas City, and he used to say, "You just need to show up empty-headed and on time." And I thought, I'm really good at both those things. I'm very, very on time, and I'm very, very empty-headed. And so I just do. And Paul told Timothy that he needed to be instant, in season, and out of season. So, and I've written about it on my Facebook page, and I've talked to people about that. You know, the circumstances of my life, the circumstances of your life, are very, very tragic, very, very difficult, they hurt deeply. And God didn't make us to ignore that hurt. He didn't make us to pretend that hurt is not there. You slam your finger, your thumb, with a hammer, and you should say, "Ow." And maybe some of you say a few extra words, but I won't talk about you, Brian. I'm sorry. Even in the midst of, yeah, Don's not here, so I got to pick on somebody. Yeah, he doesn't change. I was driving this week, and I've been on the phone, really, honestly, hours and hours and hours and hours, between my son and his wife and my ex-wife and the doctors and counselors and everything, trying to do the right thing, trying to know what the right thing is to do, because our inclinations, and you should learn from this, our inclinations of what to do aren't necessarily the right thing to do. And we actually have to go against our inclinations, because most of us, if we've got any sort of heart whatsoever, have a heart we want to rescue. But rescuing doesn't rescue people. They just take you down with them. And so I've been calling people and getting counsel, because I want to give them help that helps, not help that hurts. And so we've gotten some really good counsel and good support with that. But I was driving along thinking about all of it, and I was thinking, actually the question came to mind, well, what's changed? Nothing changed. He's the same yesterday, today, and forever. So he was my rock before, and he's my rock after. He's a God in the midst of a storm. He's a God who brings a storm. And actually, in the midst of it, we turn to him. And we hold on to him. And we feel what we feel, and we go through what we go through. But none of it changes him, nor does it change his mind about you. And the last thing we want to do, I would want to do, is to live my life and have my faith attached to my circumstances. I would be one messed up dude, because our circumstances change a lot, and there's a wide variety of reasons that things like this happen. One is we're stupid and we do stupid things, because sin makes you stupid. And two is people are evil and they want to hurt you. And three, there's all kinds of reasons, but the answer to all of them is to turn to Christ, not away from Christ. Right. And so it's to hold on tighter during that time. Right. The other thing that we need to do, I don't think there's probably anybody here who doesn't like smooth sailing. It doesn't like, it's awesome, but it doesn't always work that way in this world. And so, when the wind's blowing, what do? Hoist up the sail, enjoy the ride. And when the waves start crashing over the bow and things start getting turbulent, what do? We trust him. It doesn't change. We do the same thing both times. Now, please hear what I'm saying. I know that we want to convince ourselves that everything's going to be okay. And we want to convince everybody around us that everything's going to be okay. So we will sometimes say things, not in faith, but because we want to believe it really bad. And that comes and goes, but he stays the same. He's always with us. And, nature gives a picture of God. In Psalm 19, it says, "The heavens declare the glory of God. The skies proclaim the work of his hands. Day after day they pour forth speech. Night after night they reveal knowledge. You have no speech, you use no words, no sound is heard from them. But the voice of God goes throughout all the earth."
Amen.
He speaks all the time. We're just not listening all the time. He's pouring forth speech. He's giving truth to you all the time. And sometimes we hear it and sometimes we don't. And we need to hear his voice. Not Aaron's voice, not Don's voice, not anybody. You need to hear the voice of the Lord in the midst of our difficulty. I know I don't do much counseling at all. These people don't want to come see me. I'm like, praise God. Let him go see him. He's the nice guy. But I know most of you. I know the circumstance of your life, and I can't put blinders on when I'm here. I can't do that. I'm a context-oriented person, not a content. I mean, it's like getting across what I need to say is not the most important thing to me. The most important thing is getting across what you need to hear, what you need to hear said, the truth that you need. And so I look at you and I know your stories, and I know how you show up, and you're kind and congenial to one another. But I also know that when you're not here, you're facing some very, very difficult things, right? Very challenging. And life, whatever your theology is, whatever, life can be very, very difficult. And in this freedom that we have and experience, we still experience turbulence and difficulties. And those things can't be the basis upon what we believe. They just can't be. You know the story of Horatio Spafford, who wrote "Is Well With My Soul," and it's worth looking him up. It's worth researching the story. But I love the last line. He said, "It is whatever my lot thou hast taught me to say, it is well with my soul." He just lost all of his children, lost his son, lost his wealth, lost everything. Yet he was able to say, it is well with my soul. I don't think he did that as any sort of a macho, declaration. I think he made it as a deep-seated prayer of crying out to God. And we have great examples of that in the scripture. I mean, one of my favorite texts is, which gets misused all the time, is Lamentations 3. Because it says, the steadfast love of the Lord never ceases. His mercies never come to an end. They are new every morning. They are new every morning. Great is thy faithfulness, O God. Well, if you read the verse before, it doesn't. It's like, what? Because he was saying things that I don't even want to read. I don't want God to know I was reading what Jeremiah was saying to him, because it was rough. And he basically said, everywhere I go, you laid the trap for me. Every turn I make, you got me, you've got me chewing on gravel. You have a bear attacking me, destroying my life, everything. And then all of a sudden he switches. And what happens is there's another psalm that talks about calling to mind, calling to remembrance. And yet will I call to mind. Therefore I will hope. Because of the Lord's great love, I've been redeemed. There isn't a circumstance, there isn't a situation in this world that's going to bring redemption, restoration, and reclamation to you. It's knowing God, and knowing that God does know you, and that He does care, and that His caring is not based upon what happens in your life. It's not based upon things going smoothly. I guarantee you this, we know a lot more now because of social media and news and television and all that about what's going on in the world. But most of the world faces difficulties that we'll never face. I mean, there's violence and tragedy all over this world. And we know about it now because of the newspapers and social media. And yet they're in the midst of these places where nothing's good. They don't know. They don't know where they can get fresh water. They don't know where they get fresh food. They don't know where they're going to sleep at night. And yet there are pockets all over the world of men and women that gather like this because they believe that their source for peace and life is Jesus. And you talk to me, you wouldn't know. You wouldn't know what's going on. But we need to know. Can you put up Matthew 28? No, 11. Whatever I gave you. Just do that. Okay. Jesus is speaking to the disciples here, and he says, and this is the message. Are you tired, worn out, burned out on religion? May God burn religion out of you. Religion is not God's plan. Relationship is. And it's living, and it's vital, and it's new every day. So your religious tabernacles will not do you any good in the long run. So get rid of religion. I started to learn that. You probably haven't noticed I'm not the most religious person that you've ever met. But I started teaching when I was in high school. I was a 15-year-old. I was teaching a class called How to Be a Christian Without Being Religious. And I realized that when I was in Australia going to church, and preaching and sharing with them, I realized that I still have that message. That how to be a Christian and not be religious. Because religious people are mean, and they're judgmental, and they're boorish, and you really don't want to spend much time with them. I've had people tell me here and at other times that I've ruined them. I go, what do you mean? And I go, well, I went to this service the other day, and it was just so religious and so full of all this false, blustery stuff. And I said, well, it's not my fault. You just are opening your eyes to see that what's authentic and what's real. And we need that. We don't need all the other stuff. So anyway, forget religion. And Jesus said this, and the thing to realize about this is an invitation. When the one who said, let there be light, and there's light, says, come to me. It's not an invitation. It's a command. Jesus is saying, come to me. Get away with me, and you'll recover your life. I'll show you how to take a real rest. Walk with me and work with me. Watch how I do it. Learn the unforced rhythms of grace. Is that one of the best lines ever?
Yes.
Learn. Now, if that just bounces on the surface and doesn't take you deeper, slow down. Slow down. That is a line that we need to meditate upon. We need to give ourselves to and say, okay, God, teach me the unforced rhythms of life. And would that be fun?
Yeah.
Whatever. No, man, it's the best thing ever. And I became a Christian in an evangelical church, and so I consider myself an evangelical in recovery, because there's a lot of things that unlearned, and one of them is that we've got to do this and do that. It's really task oriented. You're really that you're viewed with through a utilitarian. Sorry about my speech, but utilitarian lenses. Like, if you can help me, if you can come aside, if you can help me build this church, if you can help me take this mountain, if you can help me do this, if you can help me do that, then God will bless you. And when I was going the first stage of my wilderness experience, I was trying to stay attached to the church, and one of the things I said to a friend is that I just want to find a church that doesn't have a vision. I don't want to be told to come and take this frickin' mountain. I just want to sit. I just want to worship. I just want to recover. And not that all those things aren't good. They're fine. But if you're living from one activity to another, and you think that you go to prayer meetings every day of the week, and you go to Bible studies, and you go to all these things, and that somehow the pleasure of God is going to increase with you, you're fooling yourself. The pleasure of God is you.
Right. Come on, stand together.
The pleasure of God is you. That's what he takes pleasure in.
Wow, that's good.
No, I hate this. I just take pleasure in my son. He doesn't have to jump through hoops for me. He just has to be him. And I of course, it grieves me. Of course, it hurts me if he's destroying himself, and if he somehow hates himself to such a degree that he doesn't value his life. That he's been blinded by this addiction to not see the value of his wife, and not see the value of his children, not see the value of his job. Because that's what addictions do. They really, you get a big bang for your buck. Your first hit, your first experience. But over time, it consistently works this way. It continues to give you less and ask more. That's just the way it works. So anytime, it doesn't matter if it's drugs, sex, alcohol, shopping, status, whatever. But if you're addicted to something that is giving you, is enabling you to numb yourself, enabling you to not feel, it's gonna end up with your destruction. It just is. That's just how it works. So. So, Jesus is saying, he's commanding us to come to him. And I'm, as a pastor and a leader in the church, I'm telling you, first things first. Yeah, it's wonderful. I look at you and I know, the guys who served at this breakfast yesterday, it was awesome.
Yeah.
You could see they were delighted to do it. They didn't serve me. So I know what it was, but anyway, no. But you could see that it was delightful for them to serve. So that's a good thing. So there are things we do that are good things, but we can also get addicted doing things instead of being somebody. And what we need to do is be a person, to be the person God's made us to be. And be okay with that. And what that allows you to do is say yes when you need to say yes, and say no when you need to say no. because you've got to live your life before the Lord himself. Sorry. Scott McNamara. I can't really answer right now. No, it's a long text. I'm just going to keep saying things if I don't stop. Let me put this in kind of a package. Okay, so first of all, the weather comes and weather goes. You know, how many of you are looking forward to fall? Most of you do. I mean, it's such a pleasant time. The Christmas in the air, and the, you know, if you don't live here, the fall colors. But it's a beautiful season, but it comes and it goes, and it's followed by winter. And when I first went to Fort Collins, Colorado, I had been there in October. It was awesome. The trees were on fire. They were beautiful. And then I moved there in like winter. I see. He said, "What a butt ugly place." Whoops. But it is. And you know what? That's life sometimes. Life, we go through winter. And it's okay. And it's also okay to give the sacrifice of praise. I know for a fact that some of you today were saying words that you didn't feel, but that resonated within you because they're true. And they bring life. And so that's called a sacrifice of praise. To raise your hand in the midst of trials and tribulations and difficulty. To raise our hands and surrender. Surrender to God. And it should be, I think you said it, Aaron, it should be a natural response to knowing who God is, to seeing Him. Real briefly, several years ago, I was painting in a house by Disneyland, and there was there was an 11-year-old boy then, and I was painting with oil-based paint and stuff like that, and I heard a ruckus. And I went out and I saw Nicky, and he was running from this guy, and he ran around the corner, and this guy fell to the ground and goes, "Oh!" And I said, "Nicky, do you know this guy?" And he didn't say anything. I said, "Do you know this guy?" And like right then, the guy sat up and pointed a .357 Magnum right at me. And he was shaking. And you really don't want somebody with a gun in their hands just shaking. But he had been in a shootout with the police and had jumped over the back fence where I was at. And he took me and the kid to hospital. But one of the things I'll never forget, one is that your skin literally crawls. It's like it goes this way, it goes that way. It's trying to find somewhere else to attach itself to. Other than your body. It knows it's in grave danger. And so that's one thing I remembered. And two is that my hands kept going up. You go, put your hands down. Okay. I didn't want him to feel one bit of threatening from me. I was not a threat. I'm a wuss. I don't even go to the men's shootout. So, but I mean, and I think when we see God for who He is and all that He is, and we never ever do, we only get a glimpse, and a glimpse is enough to kill us. But it's just an automatic response to just surrender. All of a sudden, you have perspective on everything else in life. And so many things that you're clinging to. You're clinging to because you think that they're going to bring you life. They don't. In fact, they take your life. So, number one is that we've got to see God and we've got to turn to Jesus. Number two, just learn from what's around you. You can go to a seminar, whatever, conference or whatever, but look at what God's created around you. And look at what is speaking to you. What is saying to you. Yeah. These redwood trees that we have, they grow for hundreds of years. And they're big and they're strong. They don't grow overnight. You know what grows overnight? That's very good. And how long do they sustain? How long do they last? So, you want to be rooted and grounded, and you want to be growing forever. And the way that works is that you're taking steps every day. You never feel like you're getting anywhere. You're definitely not getting anywhere compared to me. Like if you saw me walk, you go, I'm not going with him. I'll never get there. It's not funny. But if you just keep putting one foot in front of the other, I know that's not sexy. I know that's not exciting. I know that doesn't sell you on how powerful and how good and how great it is. But it is the way that it is.
That's the way it is.
It really is. Just put one foot in front of the other. And before you know it, you've made some distance. And you're in a different place. Yep. So it's just turning to Him, obeying His command, and finding out who you are in Him. And then you can weigh the opportunities. You can weigh whether you're going to do it because you're insecure and fearful that you won't be accepted, or you can weigh it based on, is this something the Lord's doing? And if He is, great. Give yourself to it because it'll bring life to you. But there's a lot of people that have been here that have given their life to programs, and it's not done a lot for them. It's worn them out and beat them up. Aaron, I had in mind this morning of how to approach this, and I don't want to ask you to come forward. What I want to do is I want to deputize you all. I deputize you all. I have that authority. Whatever. You are the ministry team this morning. And you're the ministry team to one another. I think that's what we need to do. I think that you need to, I think what happens is we lose our way. We get distracted. We do other stuff. And then we find that we don't even know where it's gone. What happened, God? Last week I was burning hot for you. Now I'm cold. That's another principle. What's white hot eventually cools down. So, I never trust. I'm fine with that. A person who's excited, but I never expect them to sustain that. It's honestly not humanly possible. Because God created us for rest. He created us to take a break. He created us for all those things. So, if you found yourself in a place that's distant, where you've lost track of what He's calling you to and who He's calling you to be, I want you to receive ministry today. And so I want you to pray for one another. So as Aaron leads, and I want just to close this one portion about my son. Okay, so my son's here, and a friend of mine has picked him up. A guy that was a youth pastor for him back in Anaheim has been very involved this week. So he picking him up. He's going to go to a house where I'm going to go and spend time with him. And then tomorrow I'll check him into rehab. Any of you who've been through any of those things know how difficult they are. And for a person, an addict, they feel, even though they're out of control, they feel like they're in control. And then when they go into something like this, not even going to the bathroom is under their control. And so that gets ripped from them. And they've got to deal with the trauma. So he's going to be in a lot of trauma. His wife and kids are in a lot of trauma. His brothers and sisters are all just blown away. But he's getting help, and he wants to get help. And if he wants it, he'll get it. That's how it works. If they don't waste your time trying to convince somebody that's drunk or addicted to do something, because they're crazy. They really are, in that state. And so, we just don't listen to anything he says. We're just going to do this thing. And so we are doing it. It's going to start tomorrow. And so be in prayer about that. And so obviously I'll be pretty locked in. Okay, so Aaron, just go ahead, and I'm sorry, I'm a little messed up. I want you, as Aaron's doing the song, where you're at, just stand where you're at. And we'll lay hands on one another and pray for one another. And pray for God's blessing and His favor and His kindness to rest upon you. Okay?
He is jealous of me. Love's like a hurricane. I am a tree bending beneath the weight of His wind and mercy. All of a sudden, I am unaware of these afflictions eclipsed by glory. And I realize just how beautiful you are and how great your affections are for me. And oh, how He loves us so. Oh, how He loves us. How He loves us. We are His portion, and He is our prize, drawn to redemption by the grace in His eyes. The grace is an ocean we're all sinking. So heaven meets earth like a sloppy wet kiss, and my heart turns violently inside of my chest. I don't have the time to maintain these regrets when I think about the way. Oh, how He loves us so. Oh, how He loves us. How He loves us so. And oh, how He loves us so. Oh, how He loves us. How He loves us so.
Just pray for the person next to you. Just bless them. Say, God, bless my friend, bless my brother, bless my sister. Pray that your favor would be upon them. I pray that their eyes would be open to see your goodness and your mercy, and they'd be attracted to it. So bless them. So Lord, we bless this whole house. Lord, we pray that we be a people that trust you in every circumstance, in the mountain top, in the valleys, Lord, that we trust you. We can't see you, we can't feel you, we can't even hear you. Lord, teach us how to trust you.
Oh, how He loves
God bless you. And have a week that is filled with the knowledge of His presence, the knowledge of His faithfulness, the knowledge of His goodness, no matter what circumstance you face, that you would know the goodness of God. Amen?
Amen.
Bless you.